and welcome to the PC Perspective Podcast. We're at episode 766. This is March 27, 2024. Well, as we recorded, it is. I'm Sebastian Peak.
I'm Jeremy Hellstrom.
And I'm Brett Van Spoonberg.
And I'm Kent Burgess.
Don't encourage him.
Josh thinks he's cute.
I'm cute.
You gonna intro yourself or what?
I'm Josh Walrath.
It's definitely going in there.
Great. You can support PC Perspective and everything that we do here. All the valuable services that you just couldn't live without by going to patreon.com/PCPer. That's PCPer. Now let's move to Food with Josh. One of the most popular segments on the show, possibly the most popular. And
how strange.
You ate something, right?
I did. Well, you know, as a human being, I do consume calories. And today the calories were pretty good. This has been a burger I've had multiple times before. Their special is still the March Madness with the Scottish ale, mustard, and all the other goodies. But today the Plainsman sounded like a really good option. And it was a really good option. It's a little messy. Usually they wrap them up, but apparently they hired my son to work there, and he's in charge of wrapping the to-go burgers, and you can see how well that's going. I'm so proud of him. But anyway, this is a single... Yeah. What can you do?
Is it possible he knew that one was yours?
Possibly. Single patty. It's got some cheese dip. What is that called? Why am I drawing a blank? Nope. Fry sauce. Fry sauce, chipotle ketchup, fresh cut jalapenos, fresh cut chilies, and American cheese. And it actually looks bad, but tastes good, and you can create your own jokes from that one. But the chilies are nicely smoked, and so they've got that good tangy flavor to it, and still that back part of the crunchy and the smoked flavor, and all the different sauces are fantastic on that, and it's a lot. And even though it's a single patty, I mean, it really super filled me up. So yeah, I'm on my 24 hours of not eating, but obviously I am consuming liquids.
Let us move to news. And our first story, this actually happened last week, but we didn't talk about it. AMD FSR 3.1 was announced at GDC 2024. FSR 3 is available and upcoming in 40 games, says AMD. The bullet points here: upscaling image quality improvements, decoupling FSR 3 upscaling from frame generation, interesting, new AMD Fidelity FX API. Now that decoupling, they say it will allow FSR 3.1 frame generation to work with other upscaling solutions. So XeSS, DLSS will work hand in hand with AMD's FSR 3.1 frame generation technology, I assume. I mean, can you use FSR without an AMD Radeon graphics card then?
Yes.
Okay. Mm-hmm. It's just built into the game engine and
it's open source. But the drivers of the third party need to support that, I believe.
I was actually watching a comparison video this week of XeSS, FSR 3.1, and DLSS 3.5 on Horizon Forbidden West. It was all done on a 4080. I can't remember if it was a Super or not, but it doesn't matter. They're the same card. And of course, the NVIDIA card was running frame gen, and so it was turning out quite a few more frames, but it was at 4K. And honestly, the FSR image was slightly sharper than the other two the other two options. Now, you had to pause and really focus to tell any difference at all. But like the close-ups on the texture of the character's clothing, the FSR was actually a little better. On distant foliage, you could see that there might have been a little over-sharpening going on because like tree limbs looked a little slightly jagged when they were a little smoother on DLSS. But DLSS and XESS looked essentially the same. But the FSR was, for the most part, just a little sharper. It was very surprising to see.
What's amazing about all this is, graphics cards, even the very minimal, like a 7600 or whatever, they're still insanely powerful. I mean, historically speaking, it's kind of nuts. And I mean, there are, bandwidth limitations, but the actual compute within these things is nuts. And software is now just kind of crawling into there to take advantage of the resources that are in this. And this is, another way of skinning a cat. They're doing some really, really interesting stuff because we have so much power at our fingertips, and we've just been so used to, kind of raw performance and kind of optimizing for, you've got an 8 shader pipeline and, 5 vertex shaders, and you've got to really kind of mess with, how everything is input in. But now we've got this tremendous amount of internal chip bandwidth and so many execution units that anything simple just runs so fast, it doesn't make any sense. But, you increase the complexity, and then you're shuffling things around a whole lot differently. And DLSS, FSR, they're doing things a lot smarter, XESS. And that's just, software. Software makes the world go round. Ask anybody who's doing machine learning or AI, what's your framework you work with? CUDA, because it's everywhere and it's highly developed. And now we're seeing, at least in the graphics and the rendering, AMD is catching up, Intel's catching up, and it's only going to benefit all of us because we're going to get better looking images on our screens when we're playing games, and you don't have to worry about, I've got a mid-range card and a 3440 by 1440 screen, and is it going to be painful for me? Not as much anymore, because software, it makes the world go round.
Next up, speaking of graphics cards, AMD has enabled that memory overclocking that we were seeking on the Radeon RX 7900 GRE. This is a follow-up to a story a couple weeks ago.
They made it great. It's not just a GRE anymore.
Now it's the Great Rabbit Edition.
Yes.
You can pump up that memory. Look at these overclock performance numbers from
That's not bad.
Tech Power Up. It's a nice little boost.
8 to 15%, not bad.
Yeah.
No, that means it's getting that much closer.
Very
to the
close.
7900 XT.
Exactly.
Now, do I have to subscribe to a mailing list to be able to download this upgrade?
AMD's provided this driver for free, Jeremy, so just jump on it right now. Speeds of up to 24 gigabits per second on that memory are achievable. So previously, Tech Power Up only reached speeds of 20 gigabits per second. Now you can push it up to 24. I feel bad for those memory chips, but I guess it depends on your card and what they can take and how stable it is.
I got it
Big
to work.
increase.
I do have to add that if you're gaming, if your game is 3D Mark Time Spy and that's all you play, you should probably just stick with your 3090 Ti. It seems to be right there in the zone.
Right, yeah, the 3090 Ti customer is clearly the 7900 GRE
Yeah, it's not for
customer. Okay.
Yeah, 3900 Ti. Was a $1,500 card back in the day.
Sure, just stick.
I thought it was closer to $2,000, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, actual
for a
street
while.
prices were...
Gosh, let me go and buy this $550 7900 GRE.
Think about that for a second, Josh. Think about that. That's amazing what you can get for $550 or $500 now.
It actually is.
This generation has, just compute-wise eclipsed everything last. And when the 30 series and the RX 6000 series came out, everybody was like, "Oh, this leap is incredible! It's unbelievable." And then the current gen cards came out, and it was a bigger leap. So yeah, it's been pretty impressive what this generation of cards can do.
It only took 2 years for prices to get to where it's kind of comfortable for consumers. But otherwise, good stuff, Maynard.
Yeah, I feel like I have been very negative on the GPU front for the last couple of years at least, and
Within reason.
it's just depressing because I feel like, hey, this is really interesting. It's exciting to get into. Obviously, you have so much more flexibility and power on a PC than you would on a console. But then you look at the prices, and it's like, well, if you want to get better performance than a console, considering the games, of course, are better optimized on consoles than PCs these days, a lot of them are, then you've got to spend a lot of money. And you're talking $1,500, $2,000 for a good gaming PC these days, like a really good one. There's always people who point to the used market and things like that, but I just feel like post-mining, I'm still not comfortable with recommending anybody buy a used GPU. Yeah, you save a lot of money for a card that's going to artifact on you, and then you're not going to know why until you finally one day boot it up and there's just a black screen. Not
Then
that I
you
have any
send it to
firsthand.
that Northwood guy, and who will, reball your GPU and
Exactly.
repair it. I have no idea how much he charges, but
It's probably less than a new card.
maybe.
Well, it's
I'm hoping.
content.
Yeah, it is.
All right, quickly, we'll talk about that China banning Intel and AMD processor story. Now, this is from Government Computers because China wants, quote, safe and reliable, end quote, processors for their government PCs. So I guess if you're a consumer over there, you can still get yourself a Ryzen or Intel. But the government will not be purchasing those. They have their own clone chip, I guess. Didn't they have some?
Yeah, I think the one
Intel?
is based kind of off of Intel Zen, AMD Zen. The Zen
I'm
one.
struggling to remember the name.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So basically, they're going to be moving away for government computers, but it's going to be a stage thing because they just can't throw them all away. And there are certain instances where the homemade chips will not run as well in server type environments. And so it's going to be a multi-year thing, it sounds like. And we don't know how well that's going to go because there is a serious performance difference in between the Chinese developed stuff. They've improved dramatically over the years. Don't think I'm trying to be negative towards the individuals and the engineers who are working on these things, but AMD and Intel are still really, really, really far ahead. And we make fun of Intel and their 300 watts of TDP plus, but their stuff is still fast, works really well, everything works, and so it's gonna hurt them a little bit, but I don't think that much. Yeah, the Chinese government is large. There are a lot of machines in there, but it's going to be a multi-year thing, and it's not always going to be appropriate to use the homegrown, and consumers in China still will have a choice. So it's kind of a big meh, at least from my perspective. What's your PC China perspective?
I feel like it's a TikTok tit for tat. You know what I'm saying? You ban something of ours, we'll take away something of yours. This feels similar to that.
And NVIDIA as well.
All it is.
And AMD crippling some of their chips.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Or, you can't have so many MIPS, so we can't send you this particular GPU, or we have to cripple it Golden Rabbit Edition style AMD. That is why.
So who's actually fabbing these chips for them? because ASM, to my knowledge, is the only company in the world that actually makes the fabrication equipment for
China
anything.
and Taiwan are in very good speaking arrangements. So
I mean,
Oh, yeah.
Shenzhen,
Yeah,
and
Taiwan
yeah,
seems
TSMC's doing it.
yeah, they've got
TSMC's probably
fabs in there, and these are like 90 nanometer, 65 nanometer. I think they go down to 45 and 32 that are based in there, and so they can do quite a bit still. I mean, it's not 5 nanometer stuff that TSMC has, but they're getting down there, and that's why their performance is not as good. But there's still a modern architecture that they still can put out there. I mean, how much more do you need? I mean, my wife's running a i7 3770K, and that was a 22 nanometer part. 32?
right.
I can't remember, but yeah, it's ancient. Still runs really fast. All of our games, applications, doesn't matter. Just, I'm amazed that thing has not burst into flames when she turns it on, because it is from 2012.
Well, that's
and
back
it
when
still runs like a champ.
that's back when Intel still had things like Tau and PL2 that actually meant something.
Yeah,
So I'm sure it never exceeds 125 watts ever.
maybe like
95.
even 95.
Right.
Yeah.
So this someday we will look back on what Intel did to maintain their competition with AMD during the Ryzen era, and we will know if these processors last as long as like Sandy Bridge and Ivy Bridge, and they're
I think we know the answer.
yeah, like you push
They don't.
300 plus watts in 10 nanometer. It doesn't seem like the best idea.
Give me a minute. I'm installing TikTok on my phone, and it's asking me if it can take control of my phone.
In our next news
The
story,
Nuck is dead. All hail the Nuck.
yeah, well, that's the thing. If you go to Intel and look for support on even one of their NUC 13 Pros, which are fairly recent, it directs you to ASUS, to their support page, which has all the drivers and things. And now ASUS is, I think this is just in the last couple of days, they've announced the NUC or whatever you say, next unit of computing, 14 Pro. So yes, there will be a 14th gen NUC. It just doesn't have Intel before the name, but it's the same. Look at it. It just looks like the slim model from last year that was Intel branded.
And it's not Ryzen powered.
No, because it's Intel, right? I think
Yeah.
if it's next unit of compute, it has to be Intel. I don't know if that's a thing, but I'm pretty sure
I can't
Intel.
believe you stumbled over Nook rather than ASUS or ASUS. So
I'm pretty comfortable
nice choice.
with ASUS these days. I think it's
Okay.
Can't make everybody happy with the way you pronounce acronyms.
No, you just can't.
So
You
anyway,
know what, Sebastian? I think you're incredible. Isn't that amazing? Thank you.
So these mini
It comes
PCs
in
were
a tall
kits.
now.
Yeah, they've had the tall and the slim,
Yeah.
and they're back. Obviously, more storage capacity.
But the
more storage
tall is
capabilities.
kit. The tall only comes as a kit, I see.
Oh, I see. Okay, so if you're getting the
I believe-
regular Pro, you can get it as a mini PC pre-configured with storage and memory, or you can buy it as a kit. And we're talking SKUs ranging from up to 40 watt Core 3. It's weird that there's no I in front of it. Core 3 100U. That's pretty low end. All the way up to a Core Ultra 135H processor with vPro on the one side, and a Core Ultra 7 155H in the kit. That's probably the tall for the extra cooling. Good connectivity.
Well, and it's got a
of
2.5
course.
inch SATA on the back.
Yeah. So
For
anyway,
reasons.
NUC, Intel NUC stuff. It's nothing to write home about. It's just it's still going on. We're going to see new generations of these things. And 14th gen, these are using mobile parts. That's where the real excitement is on the Intel side because it's the new architecture, has some, interesting things to offer.
I'm admitting my bad. There is actually a mini PC review coming up later in the show. I left it out of the email. My bad.
Oh,
Apologies.
It's fine.
I should have
It'll be
pre-announced
a surprise, like Easter egg, if you will.
Yeah.
Well, here's what is going to happen: is you're going to fly Jeremy out to your secret location, and he will flog you with wet noodles on a live stream. And I'm sure that we will get a lot of new viewers.
Yeah,
from that experience.
Again,
it needs to be
but
Canadian.
Watch the Canadian dominate.
Yeah. Canadian semolina.
Canadian noodles.
Next up, Microsoft DirectSR revealed, making resolution upscalers easier to implement. I think we've talked about this a couple of times, but here are more details about this. Microsoft's effort
it's coming
to make an interface for various upscaling technologies. Now, this is what Microsoft does. Remember back in the day, the Wild West of 3D, when there were all these different APIs, and then DirectX came along to take control.
Come on, Glide. Glide will never die. Glide is the best thing that ever happened. Glide is...
Let's compare and contrast your announcement from FSR 3.1 earlier in the show to the savior that Microsoft is attempting to be here with DirectSR. Now, it doesn't cover all that FSR 3.1 or FSR or DLSS or XESS might do, but this is probably the most visible thing for people, and that's the upscaler.
This is the same people who are trying to do the same RGB control, in actual
that's true.
OS. Okay.
But in the case of this one, Josh, to be honest with you, what they're really doing here is providing a singular API for game programmers to hit. But Microsoft, in turn, is turning around and calling the XESS or the DLSS or the FSR, depending on which card is installed. The concept is probably, I have my fingers crossed for Microsoft on this one. Please work. Please work. Please make this work, because that's just going to make it so much easier for game devs to program to a single API, like they did with graphics so long ago in DirectX, as Sebastian was talking about. I really hope they do this to upscaling, because you just want to see this quote unquote democratized and brought to whatever GPU you happen to have, and whether or not whatever game engine you happen to be running, that you don't get a different experience, and that is generally good, whatever GPU that you have. And I'd like to see Microsoft succeed at this.
Yeah, as much as I like to give Microsoft crap and, do little sound bites to make things sound like I'm, the constant critic, DirectX 3 was not good. And that's when you had, the rise of Glide and all these other APIs. And then DirectX 5 kind of helped a lot of that stuff. But DX6, DX7, I mean, it really, it stopped the reason for having third-party APIs, because it was really well-grounded, well-supported, and they had a really big, good target to hit. And then DX8, DX9, DX10, 11, 12, same thing. They're all really well engineered. They have good compatibility. All of these software engineers work well together in between Microsoft and AMD and Intel and NVIDIA. So as much as I, like to blow smoke and throw darts, it's been a positive thing. And getting everybody onto the same page with these technologies, upscaling technologies, it's only going to improve the experience for the end user and the developers. So I like to, throw lawn darts at things and, make small children scream as they have, a lawn dart protruding from their skull. But that was me growing up in the 70s. Yeah.
Hey,
yeah,
Jarks
yeah.
was
one does.
Jarks, good times. Good times then.
They were.
Nobody died.
We're all still alive.
I mean, it happened.
Often.
I mean, it happened. Yeah. But they just didn't move fast.
Hey, you got your ear
That's their
pierced.
problem.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Yep. I can't believe we threw lawn jars at each other, and that was.
Oh, I can.
Yeah.
It's not hard to believe at all.
Yeah.
Unsupervised. That was the best part.
Oh,
here,
yeah.
kids. Here's
Why don't
some
you
lawn darts. Throw some hoops in the
Go and
grass
play.
and throw
Exactly.
these 3-pound sharpened stainless steel spikes with fins at each other. Oh
my gosh. It's a fun game, though.
it was good days. Good days. Yeah.
Speaking of feel-good stories, let's talk about EVGA. Remember them? And a customer, they had a problem with one of their power supplies. They got an RMA, and the same model apparently was revised. So they got a revised version of it back, which, unbeknownst to the owner, had a different SATA pin layout. So when they plugged their SATA cables in and hooked everything back up, it killed all their SATA-powered devices, which apparently took out 22 terabytes of storage.
This is a security feature. They're securely erasing all the data on that drive permanently, irrevocably.
Some of the
I would
reality.
be furious. I'd be furious if someone burned my LG Blu-ray HD DVD combo drive because you just can't get those anymore.
It's true.
Yep.
But think how fast it would have spun before it blew up.
Oh, stop it now.
Or in reverse. But some of the real story behind this, that 22 terabytes was 2 drives. So it's not like, a huge array. It's literally 2 drives. He has backups. EVGA is making good on this. They were contacted by EVGA and they are going to make good on it. And the reason why this was done was about a year or so ago, 2022. So a little over a year ago. And it was actually a safety update, and that EVGA was supposed to catch RMAs of this nature that were coming back in, and they were supposed to warn the customer that this was taking place and to send them an updated set of cables. Kind of fell through the cracks after about a year. EVGA, it's dark in here. It's not what it used to be. It's not what it's there. It's just not the kind of company it was in the past. Maybe some of the people who are running that the customer service department wasn't aware of this. Kind of fell through the cracks. They have pledged to do better, and they're making good. And again, the customer is satisfied with the result. They're compensating for the drives.
At least they didn't lose any data. I didn't know this. The headlines don't tell you, but don't worry, no data was actually lost. It's just a sensationalist headline.
It was just a bunch of proof of stake coins that died.
Right.
Is that what it was?
I think that
really?
I have no idea.
The takeaway is to just be really aware of the cabling differences. If it fits, just fly it. No, that's not the case at all with power supplies.
Okay, if I buy a power supply and then I RMA it and they just send me the unit
You're not wrong.
back, I'm just going to plug my same cables in, Seasonic, EVGA, Corsair, whatever brand it is. I'm just assuming that if the cables look the same, they are the same. It's not like all power supplies have attached cables anymore. You've got to just
Sebastian,
right.
if it feels good,
to upgrade them.
It is good.
EVGA was supposed to upgrade them to a G5 series if they did not have the cable set, and send a whole new power supply and a whole new cable set and tell the customer you need to remove all those.
EVGA was supposed to have RTX 40 series graphics cards too. Okay, we can't have everything.
You can't.
They were the chosen one, but
they were the chosen one. A bit of a shadow of themselves.
Arc.
Yeah, I bought an EVGA keyboard, and it really lasted about 6 months, and now it's multiple key stick. The whole, he's gone. Jacob's at NVIDIA.
Hey, works for NVIDIA now. Next up, TrueNAS Core bids goodbye to FreeBSD. I don't know if we mentioned this before last week, but let's talk about it some more.
Do you want to talk about Debian?
FreeBSD was an OS that was developed by the Berkeley.
Go ahead, Jeremy. Go ahead.
The nice thing about TrueNAS Core is that it uses OpenZFS. That's a file system you can pretty much abuse in any way, shape, or form, and it really doesn't care. You can migrate it just fine. Now, the problem is that with TrueNAS Core, the version 14. They're still going to be doing a new 13.3 update for people who want to stick with it, or who are working with TrueNAS Scale and likes to have, a congruent system to work with. But the problem is that if you want to migrate the actual VMs themselves, the jails and plugins are not transferable at all. So unfortunately, you're going to have to recreate those. So as someone in the comment was saying that, hey, which it's not perfectly accurate to say you can't migrate your VMs. It's like, okay, so you can migrate the VM and you can migrate the data, but the jail that you'd set up and the various apps that you'd set up on it don't work anymore. So that's not really a migration now, is it, when you have to rebuild some stuff? So it's a bit frustrating, but on the other hand, by moving to Debian from FreeBSD, it opens up a much larger ecosystem to be able to draw stuff from. And it probably will help push things forward into 15 and 16 and so on and so forth. It's going to hurt, though, because it's all NAS devices, and you like to set those up and then just never really think about them again until they finally die. So it's an interesting choice, but it does kind of make sense, I think.
I myself started with an Unraid box and then moved everything to TrueNAS Scale a couple of years ago, for some of the reasons you were mentioning, Jeremy. ZFS being one of them, is that I really wanted to, it was before, I'm not sure, Unraid had mentioned that there were ways to adopt ZFS and Unraid for a while, and they had said that they were potentially going to bring ZFS to Unraid. I don't know if they ever did, but I really wanted to try it out. So I moved to TrueNAS Scale myself a couple of years ago. It is essentially an appliance, as you're saying. It just runs like a sewing machine, and you just spin up whatever you want on it, and it just runs in the background.
As far as I know, Scale isn't being migrated. Scale's staying. It's just Core.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
Scale already was Debian, or non-FreeBSD, I should say.
I've got a soft spot in my heart for FreeBSD. I mean, that was one of my first Unix-based experiences way back in the day. And, it was solid, it was stable, it had good community around it, but it really was slow moving as compared to other alternatives. So, yeah, you can see them eventually moving away because it's a wonderful OS, but it's almost a fossil anymore with the way it moves forward. So, goodbye, FreeBSD, TrueNAS.
It's time for In Security Corner, and yes, we're going to talk about that Apple Silicon hardware flaw, the security vulnerability that's nigh on unpatchable. I think it does require physical access, so I guess we can't get too excited. Let's hear more about it.
Or if you get any sort of third-party app on the machine, it can monitor what the issue is. You can quickly solve it by upgrading to an M3. Apparently the M3 is not vulnerable to this, while the M1 and the M2s are. But because Apple likes to go their own way, the way that they implemented in their fancy little DIT feature, it doesn't do it the same way that other stuff does from AMD and Intel. Now, sometimes that's handy because Spectre, not so much of a problem. But because of this, it's essentially a prefetcher issue again. So it's doing a little bit of prediction, and it trains itself to access memory to predict what data is going to be in memory and then try and grab it before it needs. The problem is that there's been a way to observe it, and the way that they're observing it allows it to grab the keys. Now, it's not that they read it in plain text or anything. It is still encrypted, but because of the keys they used, the proof of concept was taking less than an hour to extract a 2048-bit RSA key. And the Diffie-Hellman key took about twice as long, so just over 2 hours. That is pretty terrifying. And the problem is, because it is similar to Spectre and Meltdown, in theory, you could patch it, but you're going to see huge performance decreases because it's killing the prefetch feature that makes the M1 and the M2 so much faster. Now, as is tradition, immediately in the comments, someone called me a shill or an idiot or something and linked to a page on enabling DIT for constant time cryptographic operations, which of course has a giant yellow box on it saying that, DIT does ensure the timing of certain instructions don't reveal information. You also need to change some of the other stuff that the ARM is using, like avoid conditional branches and memory access based on secret data. So essentially getting rid of all of the benefits that you have from this DIT prediction. And
yeah, it's like a read ahead. It's a read ahead dereference, which is what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And according to Believing Computer, it affects M3s as well.
Oh, okay. This is a week old, but back last week we thought the M3 was okay.
I don't think M3 is substantially different from M2, so that makes sense.
But no, apparently they're memory independent or memory dependent prefetchers, which is abbreviated DIT for some reason. But they are very vulnerable, and so those smarmy Apple owners that are laughing at everyone who had to deal with Spectre and Meltdown, guess what?
Apple had instructions for mitigation as well. You had to input some commands and disable hyperthreading, I thought.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yep. Not that your average Apple user knows what that is.
Okay. We denigrate them a lot. Like maybe they're not afraid of the terminal, and
Yes. Well, and I mean, if they're programming apps, then they're probably a little bit better than. But no, just the idea that you can capture those keys and then just unencrypt them on your own time, and then guess what? You can now do it, and you don't need root. You just need the same access as a third-party app.
Yeah, that's bad.
It really is. But don't worry, things get worse.
Oh, sure, of course. By the way, AMD has recently issued a bulletin, I guess, a press release about their response to ZenHammer, Rowhammer attacks on AMD Zen-based platforms. Talking about mitigation strategies. They're continuing to work on this. This affects memory, and they recommend using ECC. Now, what about the ECC?
That's inexpensive.
What about the ECC sort of integral to DDR5? That's not strong enough, right? You have to have like dedicated, or is this more like on the DDR4 side?
So most of this is like 4th gen and before Zens. So I don't think Genoa really did DDR5, did it? Yeah, it did. So no, I guess not. There's your answer. 4th gen AMD EPYC processors, formerly known as Genoa, or Genoa if you prefer, that support refresh management. Yeah, you are vulnerable to this.
Wow, it's a good thing nobody
Rowhammer's
uses those in servers with shared tenancy. Oh, wait. Oops.
Never.
Should have gone with IBM. Nobody ever got fired for buying IBM.
But hey, you can fix it if you use memory refresh rates that aren't above 1 times. So again, just slow your system down to a crawl and you're relatively safe.
If you turn off the cache, like all the internal cache on your CPU, no hyperthreading.
That's cache, Jeremy, just in case you didn't know what that was.
That was Sebastian talking.
Okay. Well, he was translating.
I can translate to American.
You can? Wow.
Correct.
Jeremy can translate American to Canadian on the fly.
Canadian American and American Canadian.
Okay.
What about French?
Okay, so Sierra Pole asks a good question. How come Rowhammer doesn't affect SSDs, especially NVMe? Well, it's because of the physical properties of the.
All right,
He
thanks,
just got
Josh.
Rowhammered.
Good,
And
good answer.
anyway,
Good answer. Thanks, Josh.
I'm going.
Thanks,
I'm
Josh.
going. It's the
Catatonic.
physical properties of NAND. You cannot refresh them like you can in memory or caches. You can't do that. It just doesn't work that way. And plus, there's a bunch of insulation around NAND that is not in regular memory. And so, sorry, I couldn't resist. But yeah, no, SSDs don't work that way. You've got so many layers, so many different bits. Rowhammer is just, it's aimed at caches and fast memory, and SSDs are not fast memory. NAND can be fast. It's faster than spinning Rust, but it's not as fast as because they have to hold their own charge, and so there has to be a lot of insulation in between the cells as compared to regular memory. But yeah, sorry, I couldn't resist. I saw my chance and I took it.
Now, what
So,
about Optane? Would
you
Optane
can't
be
leave.
vulnerable?
You can't infer
Well, we had
memory
Alan on the show.
using Rowhammer.
Yeah, no, that'd be good. That would be a good question with Optane because it is a faster
Yeah, it's
type
in between.
of memory. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I suspect that no one programs for Optane, so therefore it's never been figured out.
I'm sure.
Security by obscurity.
Yeah.
Nori said it looked like Josh was stroking out instead of just freezing.
Shush you.
All right.
Anyway, I hope that answered your question. I think that's correct, but I could be wrong. But yeah, it's just there's a ton more insulation in between NAND cells as compared to DDR4, DDR5.
Yes. Next, hackers can unlock over 3 million hotel doors in seconds.
The name of the company, SafeLock, is I like that.
Now, we reported on this, like a year ago?
I think so. This sounds
Maybe
familiar.
2?
Because this was
And-
done at a Black Hat conference, wasn't it? This was shown. Okay.
Yeah, so there it is, 2022. A select group of researchers were invited to hack a Vegas hotel room. And they did. So this has been doable with 2 taps for over a year and a half. This is the first we're actually seeing how the hack works, mostly probably because they gave them a little bit of time to, fix it, and they decided not to. But with a decent RFID read-write device, you can essentially very easily capture the traffic going between them and then make your own key, and away you go. You can have that penthouse suite that you've always wanted for $300, one-time payment.
Jeremy, could this have been done with a Flipper Zero?
No, because you couldn't use it to write. It's only a read device. It is not a read-write device, unlike what the Canadian government would have you believe.
Right.
Now, it would
I
help
figured you would know the answer.
as one step do that, but you'd be able to observe the data and get the information you'd need to be able to write
And
to a
repeat
card,
it.
but you wouldn't be able
You
to do
could
that.
broadcast it, but you couldn't fix it. Okay.
Actually, that's a good question. I don't know if that would work because I think there is something with the keycard locks that... No, actually, no. As long as you're pushing it right up against that sensor, you might actually be able to do that. But long story short, this is probably the largest used card lock system on the planet for hotels. And 2 clicks, and you're in. Literally all you need to do is grab a used, because when you're finished, when you book out, you just sort of toss the key card on the desk or you leave it in your room. That's what you need, is a used key card. And you can overwrite it. That's, I think, where the Flipper Zero would have the issue, was overwriting the card itself.
You need to overwrite the card. Okay.
Yeah.
Next up, this is looks like a blog post from a writer, but they're talking about Vultr. How do you pronounce that? Vultr?
I always said vulture, but Vultr, sure.
Vultr, of course, it's spelled Vultr. It's VULTR, so naturally it's Vultr.
Yeah.
Vultr just betrayed us, writes Michael Lucas. These terms of service. This is a hosting company?
So wait, so you're suggesting a carrion eater just betrayed you?
So they've been circling their users in the sky for hours under the hot, beating sun.
You know,
and eventually
finally,
it's Vultr.
They have finally settled onto the stinking husk of their users and decided to pick the best bits out.
Yes.
So they have a new term.
The marrow of their content, as it were.
Exactly. You've hit it exactly, Jeremy. What Vultr or Vulture, depending on your point of view, has gone forth with a new term of service agreement. And I believe if you go to access their systems now, you must accept these terms of service. Basically, what it is you are now granting them as a hosting company a non-exclusive, perpetual, royalty-free, no money changing hands necessary access to your content, all of it. So if you're writing code, if you're hosting a service, if you've got customer data on there, it doesn't matter. They essentially own the right now to copy it and redeploy it or sell it or give it away or pull it together into groups and then remarket with it. They can do whatever they want with it. So if you're continuing to host on Vultr or Vulture right now, depending on your point of view, my suggestion would be to move away.
Yeah,
stop
immediately.
Stop doing that. If this is the kind of thing you just agreed to, you might want to go back and take a look at those terms of service and go, what did I just agree to? Because this is not good for your business. Check this out. There's a few places you can move off to. I guess one of the respondents I happen to agree with on X said, formerly Twitter, said High Velocity. I host several servers at High Velocity. So if you want to move, I'd personally recommend High Velocity. Reasonable hosting provider. Anyway, get off of Vultr.
I think I would draw the line at GoDaddy. I would draw the line personally at I have transferred my own personal copyright to them for everything I...
Yes, essentially.
That's... No. It's not like I'm doing anything.
It's almost like they named their group Leopards Eating Faces Party.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to join them. Oh, no, this leopard's eating my face.
Mm-hmm.
So they can re-commercialize your content. They can do whatever they want with it. They essentially own a non-exclusive license to everything that you're doing, everything that you're hosting on one of their VMs, on one of their servers. And it is crazy.
Any medium or distribution now known or hereafter existing, known or developed.
Assume that we all replace our eye sockets with crystals someday. We still have the right to broadcast. Yeah. We still have that.
And we'll put your name on it instead of ours so that people blame you.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
Memory mnemonics, we own that as well. Implants, yep, we got that. Yep. Brain modules, we're there. We still can use your content.
Let's move on to gaming quick hits. We will touch briefly on Horizon Forbidden West, which I believe it was the 21st. Yeah, it launched after our last podcast. On the PC, you can play this epic game where you wander around and face bizarre-looking creatures.
And ride them occasionally.
Now, this is like a graphical showcase. Obviously,
you're really doing a great job of making it sound enjoyable, Sebastian.
I know. I'm sorry.
He's selling it.
It does look cool, and I absolutely said yes when NVIDIA was offering a key to the game because I wanted to check it out. I'm like, you know what? I haven't looked at DLSS 3 FG in a while. Why not? But I have not done anything with it yet. DLSS 3 showcase, but also Intel XeSS, AMD FSR.
FSR 3.
Is it FSR 3? It says FSR 2.2 available at launch. Oh, I see. We are working on integrating FSR 3, including frame generation, a feature update. Oh, come on. So it's not really finished. It will be. This is hotfix 1.0.38.0 already. I'm
waiting until at least 1.1.69.
So it launched on the 21st. They already had a hotfix on the 22nd. That's good. Nothing since then, though. But yeah, look forward to that future AMD support. And it looks interesting if you've looked at these games before. Although, personally, I'm getting my open world fighting bizarre monster fix from Final Fantasy Rebirth right now. So, But that's only on PlayStation right now. You got to wait to get that one on PC.
Do you guys have time to play games?
My wife, it's mostly my wife playing it. She has logged about 70 hours in that game so far. I looked at the time stamp on the last save file. I'm like, you've played this game for over 69 hours. She has to do every side quest.
Did you say nice? And then you went off and did other things?
No.
Yes.
No.
Yeah. All of my friends currently are spreading democracy, playing Helldivers 2.
Oh, okay.
But they are into it in a big, big, big way right now. And they're like, when are you getting on? I'm like, I'm like way behind in your levels. So you got to give me some time to catch up.
Just stand behind them.
Spreading democracy.
Yep.
They're doing their part. Yep.
Next up, Larian won't develop Baldur's Gate 4 because of the constraints of D&D combat. This is a story at The Gamer. Quote, there were a lot of constraints in making D&D, and the 5th edition is not an easy system to put into a video game. End quote.
Yeah, they were going to do like DLC and like the next Baldur's Gate 4 just isn't going to happen. And they decided they were going to walk away from it and didn't like the constraints of 5e. So it's 5th edition, 5th expanded is the rule set that they were, of course, working in. A lot of people wanted to like lash out at Wizards of the Coast, who does deserve it.
Which you do, but not, I mean, that makes sense.
It did, but just not in this case. Not in this case.
The one time they're innocent.
Correct. So don't.
They have never been innocent.
And besides, it's Wizard of the West Coast, so they got rid of everyone else. So there's just one guy now.
So you'll have to wait for another studio to do something with Baldur's Gate 4 or Baldur's Gate 3 DLC. Anyway, that's the...
Yeah, I mean, it was how many years between 2 and 3? 20?
Maybe if we all pull together, we can resurrect Gary Gygax.
Yes.
All will be fine in the world.
That's just mean. Are you sure you want to bring it back into this world?
I want to play updated Gamma World.
Okay. I mean, maybe for that. And let's bring Arneson back, too. I think Dave Arneson's gone, too. Because those were the two. But, yeah. And, I mean, having played their Larian's two big ones, Divinity Original Sin 1 and 2. You could do some silly stuff in those games, which, just didn't work out.
That's what they wanted. They wanted to bring that sort of element to BG.
Well, they brought Barrelmancy in. I mean, you collect all the barrels that you can, and, occasionally there are enemies that don't notice that you're setting up 8 smoke powder barrels around them so that when you start triggering combat, you just one little fire arrow and suddenly they've taken 6,000 damage and aren't quite sure what the heck's going on.
I'm not sure what the heck's going on with this podcast right now.
Okay. Back to the show.
It's Gaming Quick Hits. And you,
when are they going to do
are addicted to gaming.
Koveffi?
Get a hold of Todd Howard. Because we need updates on the first 3 of the Elder Scrolls badly.
True.
Plus Red Garden. Need it badly.
They're sitting on a gold mine there. Come on. Remake those games. Skyrim 2024. Be big. And it wouldn't be
Now in
DX9
DX10.
anymore. Oh, wait, though, is it DX11 now? Or is that
No.
still DX9?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they really like their engine. They don't like moving on from it.
Next, you can't sue us for making games too entertaining, say major game developers in response to addiction lawsuits. This is a PC Gamer. Shouldn't we be able to sue Apple and Samsung and every other purveyor of smartphones because
Clearly,
every
TikTok-
American is
TikTok.
addicted to their phone at all times? Like, just never
Clearly,
put it
the
down.
government has shown us away with the latest suit against Apple. But in all seriousness, there is a company out there out of Atlanta called Bullock Ward Mason that specializes in this sort of video game litigation, and they're going after, like you said, the Epics. They're going after Blizzard. They're going after Microsoft. They're going after Fortnite. They're going after Minecraft. For goodness sakes, Minecraft, because it captivates the mind of people who are enjoying this sort of thing. Really, I cannot imagine, how this actually works out. This is for people who are actually enjoying themselves, and just let them go. I mean, for God's sakes, leave people alone. I just don't understand this. It seems.
What
like
if the games were incredibly boring? Would you sue them for that?
I've wasted
too?
so much of my life reading Stephen
Apparently.
King novels.
Yeah.
I'm going to sue Stephen King now.
He made the books too compelling.
He made the books
This
too
just doesn't
good.
make sense. Now they're talking about like loot sort of aspects of it, where you, for doing a good job, you are rewarded. So there's a reward system that they're talking about, and it's like a feedback loop. But I'm like, well, what would be the point if you weren't being rewarded for achievements in the game? So I'm still lost as to why this is litigation.
Because it's actually very valuable for them to litigate this. As opposed to loot boxes and in-game transactions, where your major issue is. We're not actually necessarily addicted to the game itself, but you got to buy that hat. You got to pay. You're essentially gambling online, and that is one they're never going to win. So let's back off that and convince some of the people on the very edge
I want
that
I want the dangly thing off of my scar.
Yeah. But we're going to focus on the looter shooters, where you don't necessarily have to pay. You just have to play a lot to be able to get it. Because we know
Minecraft.
we're 100% going to lose on the betting stuff. Like Minecraft. Can you buy anything?
I saw that this original suit was brought in Arkansas by a mother and her son. And I would just like to make the suggestion that maybe she should try being a parent. Just
are you allowed to suggest that in modern America?
I don't know.
Homeworld 3 has been delayed, but only for good reasons, writes Jeremy Hellstrom at PCPer.com.
Yeah, 2 months you're going to have to wait now, May 7th. But if you played the demo, almost everyone that played the demo really hated the new controls. They changed it from the original. They changed it from the remastered, I believe it is, for Homeworld. And, well, you could go back to the legacy control. Even that wasn't like it used to be. And when you're playing Homeworld, the interface is very bloody important, because you were sending a bunch of ships off this way and a bunch of ships off that way, and then you have to jump back and forth between them to be able to do stuff. Except they've included cover, because you're apparently doing a lot of fighting in wrecked battleships or space stations, so you need to be very consistent and very careful about where you're sending stuff. Problem being that everyone was kind of getting frustrated with the controls. So they said, you know what, maybe it's a good idea if we sort of backed off on that, did some fine-tuning, sped up the way that the edge scrolling works and rotation, because when I tried it, it was like, is my graphics card going? Because it should not be that jerky. They've smoothed that out. They've fixed the... one of the things you used to be able to do was send ships on a specific route, but be able to fire at something as you're going by. Well, they took that away. They're putting that back in. So they're putting in a number of different things that is probably going to make Homeworld 3 a lot more fun than the original demo was.
But not too much fun, right? But too much.
Well, no, because then it would be addictive, and we'd have lawsuits left, right, and center. And
just checking.
So that concludes Gaming Quick Hits, and let's quickly talk about the ECS LIVA Z5 PLUS Mini PC. This is a small, but not too small PC. It is called the Plus, after all. And we know LIVA from way back in the day. Like 10 years ago, I reviewed the first LIVA Mini PC. But this thing is almost 6 inches wide. It's 5.83 by 4.72 by 1.51 inches. And the extra space is necessary because it's got a 55-watt CPU inside. You can see the ventilated sides here if you're watching the video. And a lot of I.O. on this. It looks an awful lot like an Intel branded machine, but it's not because it's from ECS. So you have a full complement of I.O., a couple of NICs there.
Are those 2.5 gigabit NICs, perhaps?
I don't remember. Let me look at those product specifications. Those are, yes, 2.5 Intel i266LM and 266V vPro co-layout.
This
is a professional
might
machine.
Be firewall material, maybe. So, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And as you can see, offered in a variety of configurations, we had the i5-1335U in our review sample. It takes DDR4 memory, the usual, M.2 storage. And let's briefly look inside the machine. It came with some components with brands I've never heard of. So,
4C I have run into before.
Oh, you have? Okay.
Yes.
If you want to look at the board closely, go to the website, PCPer.com, click on these close-up photos. You can look at things like laptop-style coolers implemented inside of a small form factor mini PC. This is a Cooler Master solution here, which I think is not unique to this particular machine. And I identified some of the chips that were on the board, if you want to look at that. 90-watt power supply, which seems like a lot until you start to look at things like power draw. Now, I was impressed by the fact that even though this is a rather simplistic system setup, the CPU is quite configurable. In fact, there was a overclocking configuration screen under the Tweak tab. You can mess with turbo boosts, PL1, PL2, PL3, and 4. We're into uncharted territory here. But the thing would pull a little over 50 watts in my testing, so pretty close to that 55-watt potential of the Core i5-1330U. PC Mark 10, I have some results here. The interesting thing is this performance metrics from that test. It was pulling close to the maximum power, which often resulted in high temperatures. We're talking about 75 C under load, although it did spike up to over 90 during a render workload. So don't buy mini PCs like this to render video. I don't recommend this for video.
Because you know what?
At all.
Physics is a thing. It really is.
And here's a look at some low-end gaming if you're interested. This is in the good range for Night Raid, around 13,000. Nothing special. We've seen better from XD graphics. Ultimately, this is for work or, home computing. Some of the things about this that I think will not be popular, it's not AMD. People always want AMD APU-powered mini PCs, I feel like. It's Intel, of course. This is a NUC-like device from ECS. And it's not fanless. That's the other thing a lot of people seem to want out of these things. Well, if it's low power and it's Intel, at least maybe it's fanless. No. It has the fan that's constantly on. But though I only measured about 33.5 to 34 dB from just a foot away. So I'm not sure exactly. If I look at is there a health screen here?
In a room, you would never even hear this.
Well, these mini PCs, I always put them up on the desk near the monitor, sometimes on the monitor. And when it's that close, you can hear it. I could hear it over regular room noise. Because it was spinning at about 2,400 RPM all the time. And I did not see a way to change that, at least in the system setup. Maybe a fan utility in Windows or something would have done the trick. But any of my thoughts about this are kind of moot because you can't buy it. I cannot find this thing for sale anywhere. This seems to happen every time I review a LIVA, is that we get the sample, it's launched, there's probably a global presence somewhere, but then buying it in the US.
Do you know why they call it the LIVA?
Why?
Because they're loco?
Because they want to say, leave me alone.
Oh.
And you do.
Thanks, Josh. It's Picks of the Week. Josh, get us started.
Me. I'm awake and I'm so happy because I listened to Sebastian say some really, really amazing things. And it's just awesome because the depth of his knowledge and the passion that he has for the things that he enjoys, it really is invigorating for me as an individual listening to this podcast. It's awesome. But anyway, so I have had my current monitor. It's an Alienware ultra-wide 3440 by 1440. And I've had it for 6 years, and I didn't realize that. And then somebody brought this to my attention. It's a Samsung 49-inch Odyssey 90G95SC series curved monitor. It's OLED. And it was $700 off. It was $1,099. And I just looked at it and it was like, I want extra space. I'm not going to say that in German because that would be very bad. But the 3440 by 1440 is just not big enough for the stuff that I want to do. And in terms, I mean, I used to have a Infinity thing where it was 1920 by 1200 monitors. That was great. I could have things in different screens. It was awesome. The 3440 by 1440, it just compressed it too much. This is now at the point where you can get a really good OLED screen, 240 hertz, HDR 400, which is not great, but it's not bad.
Yeah, well, that's why you don't have a sunburn.
1440. Yeah. No,
HDR 1000 on a thing that big, you will start to fry yourself.
And so I ordered one. It's going to be here tomorrow. I'll let you know what it's like tomorrow, next week. I just had to do it. I've wanted an OLED monitor for a long time, and the price point now has hit where I couldn't resist. I just had to order one.
Are you going to record the unboxing?
Okay. I'll let you know.
You're going to live stream the unboxing process?
No, because nobody wants to see me in real life like that.
Oh, yes, they do. They do.
People,
sure.
The idea, just like having you react to the massive,
Mass.
It's got to be a big box too. Those curved monitors, they come in pretty large packages.
Yeah. Oh, it's going to be huge. It's going to be huge. My wife is going to be just, what did you buy?
It's a new bathtub. Go away.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Gavin says
hey,
it's not
a fit.
It's $9.99, Josh. Josh, it dropped to $9.99 today.
That stinks.
No, we just looked at it.
Here's the thing. I said, you know what? I've got Prime, but do a Prime +1, and they give me like 6% back. So that's like $66 right there. So I'm good.
So less than $9.99. Right.
Excellent. Yeah. That's crazy for that size with OLED.
And an OLED. Yeah.
Jeremy, your pick this week.
Holy crap, are Ryzen processors on sale up north right now? The Ryzen 9 7900 X3D is $270 off, which puts it at $530. If you want to go older generation than that, they have some other ridiculously good deals, about 50% off. But if you're shopping for a new processor and you kind of want to move to DDR5, right now Canada Computers is beating Amazon and any of the other major retailers up here for just about any of the Ryzen 5000 and up series. It's pretty impressive and tempting, but now suddenly I want a new monitor.
Yeah.
Well, they're not on sale up here, so I'm not going to buy that.
Would you call Canada Computers the Micro Center of Canada?
I don't know. Micro Center and Memory Express. Memory Express sounds closer, but
okay.
Well, yeah, we've got essentially two of them up here that aren't Amazon or Newegg. And
By the way, Kent, I can't hear you, and you're not muted on my end. So,
Oh, sorry. Is that 529 in Canadian drachma, or is that US dollar equivalent?
It's kilobytes.
US equivalent would probably be cheaper than what it is selling for Amazon.com right now.
Brett,
That's right. So we've been talking a lot about monitors today, and I hear you out there. You want to get into the ultra wide scene, but you're not sure where to go, or your pockets aren't as deep as Josh's, which it's most of us are that way, unfortunately. So 34, I think, is the sweet spot for this. I'm talking screen size here. You want that 3440 by 1440 experience, but you need it in a gaming experience. Here is your answer. LG ultra wide 3440 by 1440, 21 by 9. AMD FreeSync Premium HDR10.
What's
Holy
HDR10?
crap!
That's cheap.
$229.
That is cheap, though.
And this is 160 hertz response monitor. So this means FreeSync will support it. Remember the 144 minimum from a couple of weeks ago. 160 hertz is the safe zone nowadays. Very, very safe. LG is giving you that deep end of the pool, ultra wide. Now's the time to get in. $229. I don't know how you can't buy one. I'm not sure.
Oh, I just didn't
fly off the shelves.
Oh, I just didn't again.
Well, wait for it. It'll happen for you.
that price is too good.
It is
really
very,
good.
very, very.
What kind of
very
panel
good.
is in this thing? Is it that same
Jeez,
IP?
Okay,
what
who
a
actually
new model
sells
coming
it?
out.
Come on. It's a VA. Who sells it?
How would it be a VA? It's LG.
Amazon.
Oh yeah, LG with
It's
their
LG.
VA panels.
It
I
says
said it was
VA.
VA on the page.
It says
Damn
VA.
it. Wrong
VA
again.
display. Why don't you think
I'm-
that I can't read?
Because I'm an idiot, Josh.
Oh,
All right.
No, you're not.
Ships and sold by Amazon.com. So hey, it's a seller you can
so-
trust.
It's
Yeah.
actually legit.
It's a limited time. How? Since when is LG selling VA panels? Is blowing my mind.
I do not know, but apparently it's a thing.
They're sourcing like Samsung or something. The two companies have worked together before, so it's possible. They're both in
Well, I
South
mean,
Korea.
what? We've got 2.5 companies producing panels at this point.
Right.
This has got a reasonably good color gamut coverage as well. sRGB, 99% color gamut advertised.
yeah.
So it's not bad.
Virtually borderless too. So that way you can put two of them, or even four of them. Surround yourself with these things, with virtually no bezel. This is too good. It's ridiculous. It's 34%.
Gaming is
Just
a
give
slightly
one.
better.
Give one, Sebastian. Let us know what you think.
Gaming is a good experience on a 34 ultra wide. So, it's my opinion.
It is.
Okay.
I've got an IPS black monitor and I just can't. Once you go IPS black, you don't go
You can't
back.
go back.
Because that static contrast ratio just makes me happy just to look at it.
You like them big and round.
And kind of.
And
Ken, what do you have for a pick?
Yeah.
I have a great deal today. I don't know how long this is going to be going on, but on Newegg, they are selling the ASRock 7900 GRE, $549, and if you use that promo code there, it's $10 off. You have to add it to your cart and then use the code, but it's $10 off. And hey, with that new firmware fix that they have now, you can get better overclocking out of it. And this is essentially the exact same price as a 7800 XT now for much better performance. So, I thought it was a great buy.
That makes sense.
Excellent. You know what? I don't
And
have
then Josh can use it to upscale with FSR 3 to watch on his monitor.
HyperRX. Use it.
I think that's going to do it for the PC Perspective podcast this week. I want to thank each and every one of you for listening, watching, and going to PCPer.com, reading that long-form content that you crave. And until next week, good night.
So long. Auf Wiedersehen.
Farewell.
Bless.
Goodbye.